ANC NEC expected to meet later this morning, and their focus will be on the implications of that Phala Phala report and whether it's the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, should resign after damning findings against him. It appears that the party is split, as some members support the President and others say, of course, that he must go. Let's get you a sense of what the way forward looks like. Bring in now our guest, Muzi, who is the ANC's Mpumalanga Provincial Secretary. Also joining us on the line is Yengeni, who's an NEC member of the governing party. To both our guests, thanks for your time and welcome to the program. Muzi, perhaps I can begin with you. You know, there is little, if any, surprise that there are differing views around whether or not the President should resign or the fact that he should, in fact, stay on and fight this. The lines of demarcation had been drawn some time ago. I wonder, though, as a start, how you reckon the ANC as a whole is being affected by this.
Thank you very much, Ayanda. Greetings to yourself and greetings to Comrade Tony. Our take as the Mpumalanga province is that so far there's nothing much that has been changed. And our view is that what may transpire as discussion in the National Executive Committee does not really constitute the division of the ANC. It may be that leadership of the ANC may be sharing different views on the aspect on the table. Whatever will be the conclusion of the National Executive Committee will be accepted by the entire Executive Committee as well as the structures of the ANC in the country and our people in general.
What do you mean by nothing much has changed? I mean, the presidency itself, and I understand this is more government more than the party itself, but the presidency admits that this is unprecedented. In fact, they say something along the lines of this being an extraordinary moment for South Africa's democracy. There's definitely been something that's taken place, and it's going to need a measured response at the very least, especially if the ANC is to survive this.
Measured in terms of what has been passed countrywide around the issues of the Phala Phala saga, there has been views that members shared that the President was supposed to be stepping down, and there are also views that said, let us allow the parliamentary processes to take shape. The report that has been presented before us, it is now giving us a very golden opportunity as the ANC to allow these parliamentary processes to take shape, and at the same time not preempting the outcome of the parliamentary processes. Because the report itself that has been given to us, it is saying the President may have. That means it is not conclusive. It requires further processing and allowing all those processes to conclude this matter. When I'm saying nothing has much changed, it is because those who have been airing a view that says the President must step down are now getting emboldened to say the President must step down. But now overlooking or sidestepping the parliamentary processes which are now the ones which must be given an opportunity to take place.
One of those people who's been very vocal is Yengeni. I mentioned earlier that he's also our guest on this discussion. Mr. Yengeni, you're certainly one of the people whose views around this have been widely covered. You know, you've called for the President to resign or to step down multiple times. I suppose the question is, what's the mechanism that's to be used if he is to do that through ANC processes more than the parliamentary processes that Muzi has alluded to?
Well, the processes of the ANC are such that the officials would meet, the top six, and they would get a report from our structures in Parliament about the parliamentary process, and then convene a meeting of the National Working Committee. The Working Committee will receive the report from the officials, and thereafter the Working Committee will discuss and come to certain conclusions, and then an NEC meeting will be convened, and a report of the National Working Committee will be conveyed to that meeting. A discussion will take place, and the NEC will take the final decision. Of course, this process has not been followed. We do not know why. Maybe when we start the NEC meeting this afternoon, we'll be informed why this process has not been followed. Now we're called to an NEC meeting, special NEC meeting, without having followed due process. But be that as it may, the NEC is expected to convene this afternoon, get a report from the officials, discuss the matter that will be presented to us, and come to certain conclusions. And I think that in that regard, some of us will be insisting that the president must not only uphold the rule of law and the Constitution, but he must respect the law and the Constitution of the Republic. He must respect the people of South Africa. He must respect the country and the government. Because the country and the people of this country are going through a lot at this point in time. They're traumatized that their own president there's a prima facie evidence that has been found that he has violated a number of sections of our law and our Constitution.
Yeah.
And therefore, the president has not only respect the people and the government and the Constitution, but he must respect himself, must talk to himself and say, is this what I want for the country and the people, or even the ANC for that matter? He must speak to himself. He must look at his conscience.
Okay. What's your response to this? There are some people who are saying that those leading the charge for the president to step down themselves have failed to respond to that call over allegations that they faced in the past few years, at least the kind of allegations that affect their political careers. What's your response to this perception that in many instances it's really the pot calling the kettle black within the governing party?
I think that's shifting the goalposts because you can't justify crime and corruption by one person on the basis that others have done the same. That's just simple political dishonesty. If you have committed a crime, you must take responsibility for your actions. You must face the full wrath of the law. The Constitution and the law must apply to you without you having to make excuses. So I don't buy that thing that, you know, all those who are saying the president must go are simply calling the kettle black. No, Ramaphosa must take full responsibility for his actions in his farm. And the law is upon him to say, please take responsibility. Parliament has done its job. Within 45 days, Judge Chirwa has produced a report. It's now upon other state organs, like the Reserve Bank, SARS, the Hawks, the Public Protector. They must take up the matter and move with this issue.
Sure.
And not hold the country back. Why are they having this information on their laps for the last 6 months and done nothing up to this point? And but within 45 days, 3 people, they produced a report.
All right. Muzi, let me bring you into the discussion.
For us to call upon those organs to act, and to act now.
Yeah. Let me bring you into the discussion, Muzi. If the incumbent were to stay, right, how do you imagine he does that? You know, considering the very real questions that now hover over his name. I mean, no matter what you think actually happened, and it's important to emphasize that this is prima facie evidence. The panel itself has been quite open around them finding or rather arriving to these conclusions based on what they've been told. In other words, they're opening themselves up to more information that may lead to different conclusions. But if he does stay with this hanging over his head, he's going to have a difficult time. How does he lead an organization that's got people who are out to get him because of this report?
First and foremost, let me agree with Comrade Tony Yengeni that the NEC is the highest decision-making body in between the conferences, that it is the one that is expected to take a decision. But let me just indicate that the report, as it has been presented by the panel, it doesn't mean that the president has broken the law, because it suggests that he may have, and opening the processes for the processes that I talked about earlier on, so that we can arrive at the correct conclusion at the matter of head. For now, President Ramaphosa really has done a lot that the country is proud of, and the people of South Africa, most of them are happy about. The matter at hand is the one that must be looked honestly so, and we must be objective about it, and really it must not be used about grudges that we had in the past. We must just be objective and deal about it. I think the nature and the stature of the president as a person, he's a person who has done very well, and I think we are supporting him, and we will take the processes forward as and when the NEC takes a decision. And we can't preempt myself even the decision of the National Executive Committee, because that structure must be respected and be allowed an opportunity to discuss, and after that we shall all be binded by the decision of the National Executive Committee.
All right, so that's one scenario if he stays. Mr. Yengeni, if the president were to go, questions being raised around if there's anybody else within the governing party who's got a mandate to lead the organization, given A, the fact that the president, of course, or the incumbent was voted in, but B, there's also people pointing to just how much support he has in the form of nominations in the lead-up to this conference that's going to take place now in exactly 2 weeks' time.
Well, the issue of who then becomes the acting president is defined both in the ANC's constitution. If for some reason the president gets incapacitated, what then happens? That process is outlined in our constitution in the ANC. Similarly, it is outlined in the constitution of the country. And therefore, we've got our work cut out regarding that. We can't depart from what our constitution and that of the country is placing before us. So if we get to that point, those would be the leading documents or prescripts that we must follow, both as an organization and as a government. Okay.
Right. Tony Yengeni, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. He's an ANC NEC member. Also joining us there is Muzi Chirwa, who's the ANC's Mpumalanga Provincial Secretary, opposing sides of the story in one organization. Once again, that meeting is set to begin at 11 o'clock, and I guess there's still no telling what's going to be on the other side of that discussion.